There's going to be people who pick up, there's going to be people that will never pick up, and then there's going to be bad data. What you don't want to do is put your rep on a list of people that will never pick up.
It's a complete vanity metric. Just make more dials, as opposed to how do we have more conversations with the people we actually put on a list that we target. Welcome back to another edition of Outbound Fluff, no sales. Nothing pumps more fluff into your pipeline than trying to reach someone who is not reachable, especially not on the phone. And yet, that's what happens across the board for probably 9 out of 10 sales reps. In this episode, we're going to talk about a little bit more of an advanced topic that explains what is Titan-X and phone-ready leads, what's behind the whole company, what does it mean to understand that some of my segment of who I can reach is reachable, workable versus bad data, and then how you can take that into your strategy going into 2026. If you enjoy this episode, hit subscribe. Feel free to let us know in the comments below if you have any follow-on questions or want to see topics covered that we haven't covered yet. I'm Ronan Pesar. With me is Ryan Reiser, and we're the Outbound Operators. Ryan, you ready to dive into this one?
Let's get into it. A static list in time, right? I've done the research. These are the accounts that I want to target. These are the people within the accounts that I want to go after. I've now gone and I've gotten the contact information that I can get for these people, right? All the numbers that you could procure via the web or paid databases, whatever it might be, emails, channels, etc. That's a static list. Like you can add to it later, but let's just look at that list. Say it's 1,000 people. As I start to call through it, there's going to be bad data, workable data, reachable data. Every list has this. It doesn't matter if it came inbound to us, whether we research it and we got it via a paid source, etc. It's all going to have that same outcome every time. But when I take a list and I start to work it, the first time I call through it, the people who pick up, and they are the right people, those are reachable people, right? That's what we're after. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the average dials that it takes to get somebody from that list on the phone are typically in this like 3 to maybe 2 to 8% range, right? So 1,000 people, I get 20 to 80 people that have picked up. I would have also I would have definitely made out of the 1,000 another 900 something dials, 900 to maybe a couple thousand, depending on the total number of numbers on that list. And some of those are still workable numbers, meaning they're good numbers worth calling. And then there's going to be bad numbers in there, right? Meaning you called them, you got the fax tone, it's a disconnected number, it rings and 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 rings, never answers these types of things, right? So that's bad data. Every time I go through a list, this is going to happen, okay? What people don't understand is that first time through, that 2 to 8% that picked up, okay, that represents about 20% of the total people that will ever pick up, right? So the remaining list still has workable and some bad data in there. I call through it again, that connect rate's going to decay. It's going to go from whatever it was down to about 80% of that. Okay. So if I was at 5% through the first time, it's going to be something like 4% the second time. Same thing's going to happen. We got my reachables out, got workable bad. Call through it again. It's going to decay again by about 80%. 4% is going to go to something like 3.5%. Again and again and again. By 5 times through this list, I have now all the people that have picked up on this list represent about 80% of the people that will ever pick up on the list. And my connect rate is going to be sitting at about half or less than what it was when I first started. Okay. If I continue to go through the list, it's more workable than reachable. By 10 times through that list, I'm at 95% of the people that will ever have picked up, and my connect rate is going to be sitting at like 1%.
Yeah, it's going to be a fraction at that point.
Or a fraction of 1%.
Yeah.
Meaning you're going to have to make hundreds of dials to
Just
get
one
or
and
two people on the phone.
You know what's crazy to validate all this that you're saying? I saw this unfolding unintentionally back in 2019 and in 2020 when I had my team of then 35 SDRs using a parallel dialer. We were using Connect and Sell. We were calling. And what inevitably started to happen was when a new list would get uploaded, we would have like a 3.5-4% dial to connect rate. This was in the cybersecurity space. So I think that's now in that space gone down a little bit. But what would happen is the lists were set up in a way to have infinite number of call tasks, which in hindsight is so foolish because then the reps are going from, like they're making 400, 500 dials a day, and they're getting like, I don't know, at first, maybe it was like 20 connects on that, 25 connects. And then, a few weeks later, they're getting like 10 connects on that number. And then a few weeks later, it's like now down to 3 connects. And then they start
Correct.
making like 600 dials a day. and they're getting like maybe 7 connects, 6, 7 connects. And I saw this unfolding as we were doing it, realizing something was wrong. Like this is just us doing more junk spam, guaranteeing we're not going to get a connect, but doing it faster and more, thinking that we're going to get better results. It's literally the definition of insanity. We kept doing what we were doing, expecting different results by just doing more. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, if you're watching this, Ryan comes at this with extremely unique background. He literally built and sold a company that did what we're describing as a service. It is now called Titan X. It used to be called Phone Ready Leads. Ryan has sat on mountains of data and seen it for what, about 5 years, of what all these numbers across dozens of industries, hundreds of thousands of different types of use cases, what it all looks like. And this is where the information is coming from. It's from all this experience that went into building and then eventually selling what is now Titan X.
Well, and that came from a half a decade of using Connect and Sell,
Right.
which I set on millions of dials. And exactly what you explained is what I just covered, is that on any given list, there's going to be people who pick up, there's going to be people that will never pick up, and then there's going to be bad data. What you don't want to do is put your rep on a list of people that will never pick up or have a very, 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 very low likelihood to pick up.
And the
Because
reason why is something that if you're not thinking about it in these 2, 3 steps, it's just not as intuitive. But since we've been doing it for this long, it's so clear. Your reps only have so much time in their day. You're paying them for that time to do activities. If you're putting them on a list that is going to have a sub 1% connect rate, you are 100% guaranteeing that you are just burning money. You're paying them to do something that will not yield any positive outcome. It's a complete vanity metric. Just make more dials, as opposed to how do we have more conversations with the people we actually put on a list that we target.
I mean, the point of all of this is if you're a sales leader, your goal should be trying to create a system and a process that solves the current situation. My sales reps are paid to have conversations in my market. I want them in, obviously everyone's talking about meetings. Right? I want them in meetings with our prospective customers if I could all day long, right? That's what I would love to have happen. Of course, you need to have time between so they actually do appropriate follow-up, but they should be, if they're not in a meeting with a customer, they should be able to click a couple buttons and be in their next best conversation with the next best customer. That's what you should be trying to create as a sales leader. Right? I want my reps in as many conversations with my market as possible and removing all of the admin and unnecessary friction that keeps them from moving deals along the way. Now, don't get me wrong. Like we just talked about before this podcast, you're working some deals and you have to do some prep and put some presentations together. That's fine. That has to happen. But when they're in the seat doing sales activities, it's not about doing activities. It's not dialing and sending emails and doing LinkedIn messaging with the hope that somebody sees it and responds. It's they should just be having conversations with people. That would be the goal. Everything else should be done by marketing. Marketing should be doing the work of those other activities to get somebody to raise their hand and schedule, or at least show that there's a level of interest to justify doing the one-to-one outreach after the fact with a level of interest, right? That's why inbound is effective with the right people. So when you don't understand the way the data works in the channel, which is I'm going to use the phone to get somebody on the phone, if someone's not going to pick up the phone when I call them, especially cold outbound, right? You don't have it. There's no value of these other channels yet. They don't know who you are, what you do, or how you do it. You can't respond to certain things. You want to focus your attention on the people that are likely to answer the phone to have that
Mhm.
initial conversation so that you can determine, are they actually the right person? Do they have the problem now that they want to solve? And then move them
Yes.
into my selling funnel. If they're not there yet, that's fine. But because of priority lead, and you should follow up with them in the future because you know you can get them on the phone. And that conversation will
Yes.
come very, very efficiently over a period of time. That's what buckets is all about. The problem with thinking more activity creates more conversations is that it's true for a list of reachable data. If I only called reachable data, which is what Titan X does or Phone Leads did, and what buckets will produce for you if you run it the right way, is you will be in a position where if you do more activities, you will have more conversations. Everybody spends about 80, upwards of 95% of their time on this workable list of people that are never going to answer. So you do all of this activity
Mm-hmm.
and you get no result. From a mindset perspective, a rep is going to not do the work if it's not getting them the result.
Yeah.
It's hard enough to get them to do the work when the result's occurring, let alone when they don't get the result.
Ryan, this reminds me of something I'd put together a long time ago, but I think it's It's so accurate to exactly what you're describing. I want to pull this up real quickly. But I remember the first time I had this realization, I was like, okay, this is what a lot of people think. They have like this whole TAM blob and like I could just work it all. But then in reality, what ends up happening is if I go after everything, I'm just going to waste my reps' time burning money. And so instead of just randomly having my reps do that, getting random results, it's like, all right, well, what if instead we segment the TAM based on what you're talking about? And this is the moneymaker, is it's you've got your entire universe of accounts, and within that, you've got like good, better, best. With your best accounts, you've got contacts, and those contacts, only so many are reachable. So bad data, workable, reachable. This inner circle is like, I'd love to target these accounts, but the people who work at those companies, we target accounts, we sell to people. Only so many of them are reachable, and only so many of them are workable. The workable ones don't necessarily mean I'm going to be able to even reach them if I try them on the phone. And I think this image, what I was trying to do with it is just show exactly what you're talking about. There's only a small subset of your subset that is actually contacts, targets you can sell to that you can actually ever reach. And realizing that and using something like a Titan to get you there faster is a huge lever in being able to create speed, talking to more people in shorter periods of times, efficiency, lower cost of acquisition, and overall better satisfaction for your reps when they have 30 minutes of white space, knowing that in those 30 minutes, instead of maybe having one connect, they could maybe have closer to 5 to 7, maybe 10 in an hour.
Well, the other thing is the next thing you need to look for is it's actually receptivity.
Yeah. And by the way, where you're going right now is exactly the next piece. That's just to get a hold of the person. That
That's
doesn't
right.
tell you anything about their readiness. Now we've just started the conversation. So back to what you're saying about receptivity. It's like now you've actually reached them. Now what?
Right. And the reachability is great. Like I know I can reach them, but now I have to get into a situation where are they receptive? And if not now, when, if ever? And then the other piece that is hidden in all of this stuff, which we identify fairly quickly, is like a lot of the time the resistance that is occurring isn't even the right people in the first place. So like
Hmm.
when you talk about what's the alternative, your list is your list is your list. The amount of work it's going to take to get to the outcome of first reachable and then receptive is the same amount of work no matter what you do, right? Using something like Titan X is literally just outsourcing the effort it takes to get to the same outcome you would have otherwise without your rep doing the unnecessary work.
It's the fast pass, like if you're at Disney waiting in line for the ride, you got the fast pass, you just cut right ahead. You can go on 20 rides in an hour instead of one in an hour.
Yeah, it's the same result regardless of what you do. And again, I know we're talking about trying to put together some content so people can watch this on demand. If you don't believe us, let us take your list,
We'll show you.
score it, show you the ones that are reachable. And if we scored it enough times where we said, no, these ones are reachable, these ones are probably workable, I can prove it to you by just having your reps call for 2 days straight. Call this list of people that are reachable for an entire day. It has to be a big enough list, but call them for an entire day. And you're going to see, because we do this every single day across all of our clients, that they're going to have a conversation every 3 to 5 dials. It's going to be somewhere in the 3 to 5 dial range. We do this in our POC with a small list, but we could do it with a larger list, right? You call for an entire day and have 40, 50, 60 conversations from that list. Then we could say, hey, here's the ones that we said are workable. Call that list. You can call the entire day and maybe have 1 or 2 conversations. We'll show you that. We'll show you that like
Yeah.
live. It's going to be night and day. Then your
Yeah.
questions becomes, well, we got 1 or 2 connects from this other list. Like, why aren't we still calling them? We're not saying don't ever not call them at some point in the future. If and only if that person who you absolutely know is the right person at the right account that you definitely want to get on the phone, then you should call them. Why not? If you believe that they're worth going after, you just have to understand the cost of getting that conversation. And in most cases, your CAC is going to be out of whack. And
Yeah.
marketing to that person via the phone, rep labor. If I take a rep and I pay them, let's say it's a $60,000 base, that's 5K a month. And let's say they're only calling all day long. Even with a parallel dialer that can rip out 1,000 dials, you're still spending close to about $1 for every dial they make.
Hmm.
$1, right? So if it takes somebody 200 dials to get that first connect, you're spending over $200 to get that first connect. And here's the thing that people also don't understand. Likelihood of someone being receptive is also a function of their reachability in the first place. So somebody who picks up the phone isn't always receptive, but they're more likely to be receptive than not. If somebody is very difficult to reach, the likelihood of them being receptive is also low. It's not always the case, right? There's these edge cases, right? If you've been in this game long enough, I can tell you my own stories of this where you've
Sure.
called somebody over 100 times, they finally pick up. It's a great meeting. It happens. But can you justify that investment? Most people don't take the time to say, that is absolutely the exact account. That is absolutely the exact person that I want to reach out to. And I'm going to sit there and call and call and call and call and call and call until I hope they eventually pick up. And if they did, that's a big if, are they even going to be receptive? The chances of that happening are very low. So you better be putting that lead with your absolute best rep, absolutely prepared to have that conversation. In most cases, they're not. You're certainly not going to be there when you're parallel dialing. Right? If you're parallel dialing on a list of people that never pick up and it's a 1 or 2% connect rate, they're spacing off. It finally beeps and then they're not even prepared for the conversation, and they lose half of those connects anyway because there's a dead air delay and all this other stuff.
Oh my God, I got a call the other day from Connect and Sell like last week, and that's exactly what happened. I was like, hello. And it was like, hey, Ronan, do you have 27 seconds for me to I'm like, you're still using the 27-second script. That's crazy. And also, you must be using Connect and Sell or something. He goes, yeah, I'm calling from Connect and Sell. I'm like, uh-huh. Tell Chris I say hello.
If you make a list of 100 people that we absolutely want to sell to, you put them on a list. What we're going to quickly tell you is here's the ones that will pick up quickly, early and often. Here's the ones that are not likely to pick up very often. And if they do, may not be as receptive, all the way down to here's a list of people that even if somebody picks up the phone, we don't even know if it's them yet. It's just a workable number, right? And then finally, you got bad data. So when you look at the distribution of just the stuff that you know to be true in the first place, close to 20% of the data itself is just the wrong data. Even when someone does pick up, it's the wrong person, like literally the wrong name. Yeah. Wife on the mobile plan, daughter, you might have the right family person. That stuff gets weeded out on the name verification in the first place. But once we even have the right name, you also have 10 to 12% of that that's usually right name, wrong person. We've just done 2 pilots in a row where it was close to 30% of the data. So again, what's your alternative? We can show you. Here's the stuff that picks up, call them, conversation every 3 dials. Here's the stuff that's probably not going to pick up, make calls, conversation every 200 dials. And it's going to be the same distribution of connecting completes, completions, bad data, no longer with company, all that same shit. And it's taking $200 to get to that. Now, if you move that all the way down to the cost per meeting, with
you're paying an insane amount of
$10,000, $15,000 just to get the meeting. And that might be justifiable if you have a very high ACV, but very valuable customer.
It probably isn't, unless you're, in the rare edge case of having a super high ticket item. And like, to wrap this one up, I think this is the point, is understanding. I know this is a more advanced topic for some of our viewers, but for those of you who are still watching along this far in, this is a really critical element in being able to unlock efficiency to the tune of 8 to sometimes 25, 30x. Is understanding this concept and executing on it. Because when we do this for our clients, what the point of our proof of concept when we're calling your buyers live is to show you that we can have a conversation every 3 to 5 dials. In an hour with Ryan and I doing it, we have 20, 25 connects during that time. The last one we just did led to 4 interested people, 2 of which set meetings right there. I'd never pitched the company the minute before that started. An hour later, we already have success. To wrap up what Ryan, you were just saying here is you have to understand that within your target market, you've only have one massively important choice. Who do you put on the list? We target companies, we sell to people, but you're not done. Within those people, question is who's actually reachable? And when you go through that exercise, the percentage of people who are reachable on a list can range anywhere from as low as 10, 12% to maybe in some rare cases like 40%. That's reachable. If you were to try them, like Ryan had said, somewhere between 5 to 10 times, you're going to get about 80 to 95% of all the reachable people ever in that number of attempts. But your bigger chunk of people on a list that you already identified as a good target, a target account, and a person you want to sell to are never going to answer the phone. Email. How many of them are going to go straight to spam? Can you validate the channel? Even if I have a workable email, can I get around their email security? Do they even check email? LinkedIn, same thing. Are they active on LinkedIn? Have they logged in the last 24 hours, week, 30 days, 90 days? It's the same concept regardless of the channel. It's the same concept. Are they reachable? Is it workable? I just don't know. But like, great example, this is email. I could have a working email that doesn't bounce. So it's a workable email, but I don't know if I'll ever reach that person via email. Maybe that person has an AI tool like I do that just sifts through their emails for them and puts all the junk in a folder that they never look at. So I'm workable via email channel, but you can't reach me. You very unlikely will ever be able to sell me or reach me with a message via email. And then you've got all your bad data. And when you deploy a tool like Titan X, formerly Phone Ready Leads, which Ryan built, what you're doing is you're understanding the value of eliminating the work from your reps' plates on the workable and bad data and having them stay focused on the reachable data. That right there is the accelerant. That allows them to become 8 to 30 times more efficient. That allows you to compress time. What could take your team a year to do, maybe you do in a month. Or like what we do, what takes most people a week to a month to do, we do in 1 hour. And when you see that, it kind of light bulb goes off. It's the coolest thing ever. In the follow-up session, in a follow-up show, Ryan, we should do a whole second part of this. Now that we're talking about the reachable side of it, now what does the math of markets tell us? We did one earlier, but we could double down on this topic of when I actually reach the person. Now what should I expect? And then we could talk about how that breaks down, because just getting a hold of them, that's just the beginning of the game. Now I'm ready to actually start the conversation. And once I start it, what's the distribution in my market of people who are actually ready, open to listening to what I have to say? Yes, no, not me, not now. We could do that in a follow-on video. If you guys enjoyed this, I know it's a more advanced topic. Let us know in the comment section below. Hit subscribe. As always, I'm Ronan Pessar. With me is my business partner, Ryan Reister, and we are the Outbound Operators.
Peace.